If you have been running John Deere equipment for years, you might think you have seen every trick these machines have to offer. But hidden beneath the familiar controls are features, maintenance shortcuts, and diagnostic tools that many owners never discover. These 17 John Deere secrets can help reduce downtime, improve fuel efficiency, extend your equipment's life, and get more productivity out of every hour in the field. Secret number 17. Hidden diagnostic mode. Most John Deere operators have no idea their tractor has a built-in diagnostic computer you can access without any dealer tool. And on many models from the 6R to the 8R series, you can enter the diagnostic mode directly from the command center display. Hold down the menu button and the enter button simultaneously for about 5 seconds, and the screen opens a hidden service menu. From here, you can view real-time sensor data, engine temperatures, hydraulic pressures, transmission status, and active fault codes. You can see exactly what your tractor is doing at any given moment without plugging in a single cable. This is the same data your dealer looks at when they hook up their Service Advisor laptop. If you see a warning light pop up during harvest, you do not have to guess what it means. Pull up the diagnostic screen, read the code, and decide whether it is a critical failure or just a sensor glitch that can wait until the job's done. Knowing how to access this menu alone can save you an emergency service call when time matters most. And that leads us directly to the next example. Number 16. DEF fluid crystallization trick. Diesel exhaust fluid keeps your emission system running clean, but DEF can cause serious headaches if you do not handle it right. The number one mistake farmers make is letting DEF sit too long in the tank or storing it in direct sunlight. DEF degrades after about 12 months, and it degrades faster in heat. When it breaks down, urea crystals form inside the tank, the injector, and the lines. This leads to clogged DEF injectors and expensive after-treatment failures. Here is what experienced operators do. They buy DEF in smaller quantities and rotate stock instead of filling a 300-gallon tote once a year. During winter, DEF freezes at 12 degrees Fahrenheit, but do not panic. Your John Deere has a built-in heating element that thaws it before operation, but do panic if you see white crystal residue around your DEF cap. That means contamination has started and the injector is next. And this is where things get fascinating. Secret number 15. Forced region timing strategy. Forced regions are the bane of every farmer's existence during busy season. Your tractor tells you it needs to park and run a diesel particulate filter region cycle, and you are sitting there burning fuel doing nothing. Here is what veteran operators have figured out. You can manage when regions happen by watching your soot load percentage on the dash. And most John Deere tractors show this in the diagnostics or on the command center. When soot load gets above 80%, a region request is coming. The trick is, do not wait for the tractor to demand it. If you see soot climbing past 70%, run the tractor at high RPM under load for 20 to 30 minutes. This creates enough exhaust heat to trigger a passive region and burn off the soot naturally without a forced stop. This is how experienced operators time their regions to happen during transport or light field work. Instead of in the middle of planting or harvesting, you stay in control instead of the tractor dictating your schedule. And that brings us to the next discovery. Secret number 14. Hydraulic coupler pressure relief. If you have ever struggled to connect a hydraulic hose to a John Deere remote coupler, you know the frustration when there is trapped pressure in the line and the coupler will not click in. In most operators' experience, either they yank on it until something gives, or they go grab a wrench to crack a fitting. And both of those risk blowing a hydraulic line or injecting fluid under your skin, which is a medical emergency. Here is the fix that experienced operators use. Before disconnecting an implement, cycle the remote lever back and forth a few times with the tractor running. This bleeds off trapped pressure on both sides of the circuit. Then shut the tractor off and the coupler will release smoothly when reconnecting a new implement. If the coupler still will not click, push the male end in while gently wiggling it and pull back the collar at the same time. This trick works because trapped oil creates a hydraulic lock, and the small movement allows enough fluid to bypass the check valve. It takes 5 seconds and saves you bloody knuckles and blown fittings. Now we step into the next chapter of the list. Secret number 13. Tire pressure, field versus road settings. Most farmers run the same tire pressure year-round, and it is costing them fuel, compaction, and traction every single day. John Deere's own engineers recommend different pressures for field work versus road travel. For field work, lower pressures spread the tire footprint, reduce soil compaction, and increase traction. A typical 480 80R50 rear tire on an 8R might run 15 pounds per square inch in the field, but 24 pounds per square inch on the road. Running road pressures in the field means you are compacting soil deeper, killing root development, and reducing yield. Running field pressures on the road wears tire shoulders unevenly and increases fuel consumption. The experienced move is to invest in a central tire inflation system, or at minimum carry a portable compressor, and adjust pressures before entering and leaving the field. The yield difference from reduced compaction alone can pay for the system in a single season. Now we arrive at one of the most interesting examples. Secret number 12. AutoTrack Activation Line Hack. AutoTrack guidance is one of the best features John Deere ever built, but there is a frustration most operators deal with every day. The system will not engage until you cross the activation line at the right angle and speed. If your field has odd shapes, or you need to start mid-row, you end up driving past the line, turning around and trying again. Here is what experienced operators do instead of using A-B lines for irregular fields. Switch to adaptive curve tracks. Record one pass along your natural field contour and let AutoTrack follow it from there. For activation issues, slow down below 3 miles per hour. Approach the line at less than 30 degrees of offset, and the system will engage much more reliably. On 6R and larger models, you can also adjust the AutoTrack sensitivity settings in the Starfire menu. Lower sensitivity lets the system engage at wider angles, which saves you time on every single headland turn. Over the course of a full planting season, this hack saves hours of wasted passes. Next we look at a brand that quietly changed the game. Secret number 11. Selective control valve. Flow rate adjustment. John Deere tractors come with multiple selective control valves for running hydraulic implements, but most operators never adjust the flow rate from the factory default, and this is a mistake because every implement has different hydraulic needs. Running a grain cart auger on full flow when it only needs 60% wastes fuel and creates unnecessary heat in the hydraulic system. On the command center, you can adjust each SCV independently, set the flow rate and the time delay for extend and retract. Experienced operators dial in each SCV to match the implement they're running. A fold cylinder on a planter might need fast full flow, but a marker arm only needs a trickle setting. Setting these correctly also prevents the jerky, violent cylinder movements that can crack implement frames and bend pins. If you've ever had a hydraulic cylinder slam to the end of its stroke so hard it shook the whole machine, your flow rate was too high. But the next spot belongs to something even more interesting. Secret number 10. Engine block heater timing. Cold starts are brutal on diesel engines, and most farmers know to plug in the block heater, but almost nobody times it correctly. Plugging in your John Deere 12 hours before you plan to start it is a waste of electricity. The engine block reaches optimal temperature within 3 to 4 hours of being plugged in. After that, the heater is just maintaining temperature and burning power for no added benefit. The experienced move is to put your block heater on a timer. Set it to kick on 3 hours before your alarm goes off. The engine will be warm, oil will flow freely, and your starter won't struggle. This also reduces the thermal shock that comes from cold cranking, which is one of the biggest causes of premature engine wear in diesel tractors. John Deere's own service bulletins recommend against extended block heater use because the constant heating can degrade coolant hoses and heater elements faster. time it right, and you protect both the engine and the heater itself. Coming in next is something many people overlook. Secret number 9, IVT creep speed for precision work. The infinitely variable transmission on John Deere 6R, 7R, and 8R tractors is one of the most advanced drivetrains in agriculture, but most operators only use a fraction of what it can do. One of the most overlooked features is creep speed. The IVT can go as slow as 65 feet per hour. That's slower than a snail and incredibly useful for loading a planter with precision, pulling through a tight barn door, or inching up to an implement for hookup. Instead of feathering the clutch pedal, just set the transmission to the lowest range and use the foot pedal for smooth, variable speed control. The IVT also has speed matching. When you shift ranges, the transmission automatically adjusts revolutions per minute, so there's no jolt. You can shift from transport speed to field speed without jarring your implement. Experienced operators use creep speed daily and wonder how they ever worked without it. But the next example raises the stakes. Secret number 8, cab pressurization filter schedule. If you're breathing dusty air inside your John Deere cab, your pressurization system has failed, and you probably don't realize it. The cab is designed to maintain positive pressure, keeping dust, chaff, and chemical spray from entering through gaps around doors and windows. The system relies on a recirculation filter and a fresh air filter working together. When these clog, the cab loses pressure and outside air leaks in. Most operators change filters once a year. If that experienced operators blow out cab filters every 100 hours during heavy dust seasons and replace them every 250 to 300 hours, a properly pressurized cab keeps you healthier and keeps your command center displays free of dust. If you're wiping dust off your dash during harvest, your filters are overdue. But the next one proves the rule. Secret number 7, command center run page customization. Most operators leave the default display layout on their command center exactly as it came from the factory, but doing so means missing one of the system's most useful productivity features. The run pages are fully customizable, allowing you to display the information that matters most for the job at hand instead of constantly digging through menus while you're trying to operate. You can configure up to 4 separate run pages, each with its own combination of data fields and screen layouts. Spend a few minutes in the settings menu and open the run page editor to tailor each page for a specific task. One page might focus on transport by displaying engine RPM, ground speed, fuel consumption, and engine temperature. Another can be dedicated to planting, showing seed population, skips, doubles, downforce, and row performance at a glance. A third page may be optimized for harvesting with yield, grain moisture, grain loss, and header performance, while a fourth can serve as a diagnostic screen displaying soot load, DEF level, hydraulic oil temperature, and other critical machine health information. Place the data you monitor most often in the largest display zones so it can be read instantly without taking your eyes off the field for more than a moment. Experienced operators typically customize these screens once at the beginning of each season, and that small investment of time pays off every day by eliminating unnecessary menu navigation, reducing distractions, and allowing them to focus on operating the machine instead of searching for information. But the real turning point comes here. Secret number 6, parking on IVT machines the right way. Here is something that catches a lot of IVT operators off guard. If you park on a slope and do not follow the correct procedure, you can damage the transmission or let the tractor roll. The IVT does not have a traditional park gear. Instead, it uses the park brake and the transmission's internal clutch packs to hold position. The correct procedure is, come to a complete stop, press the park brake button firmly, wait for the park brake indicator to fully engage, then turn off the key. If you just shut the key off without engaging the park brake first, the tractor may creep on slopes because the transmission defaults to neutral on shutdown. On steep hills, experienced operators also lower the rear 3-point hitch to the ground and leave the front loader bucket flat on the surface. This creates physical anchor points that take stress off the park brake. The extra 10 seconds it takes to do this correctly protects your transmission from internal clutch damage. But the next example changes everything. Secret number 5. Fuel filter water separator drain schedule. Water in your diesel fuel is one of the most common and most preventable causes of injector failure on John Deere tractors. Your tractor has a fuel filter water separator, and at the bottom of it is a small drain valve. This valve lets you purge accumulated water from the fuel system before it reaches the injectors. Most operators never touch it until a problem shows up. Experienced farmers drain this separator every 50 hours or weekly during heavy use seasons. It takes less than a minute. Just place a container under the drain, open the valve, and let it flow until you see clean fuel with no water or cloudiness. Condensation builds up in fuel tanks, especially when tanks aren't kept full overnight. Temperature swings cause moisture in the air inside the tank to condense and settle to the bottom. Keeping your tank full and draining the separator regularly will add years to your injector life, and injectors on a modern John Deere can cost over $1,000 each. What comes next might surprise you. Secret number 4. Grease interval. The dealers do not advertise. John Deere's official maintenance schedule recommends greasing most pivot points every 100 hours. But experienced farmers who get 15,000 hours out of their tractor's grease every 50 hours. Front axle pivot pins, loader bucket pins, and 3-point hitch pins see the most stress and wear fastest. The trick is not just greasing more often, it is greasing correctly. Pump the grease gun until you see clean grease push out around the fitting. The old contaminated grease carries dirt and metal particles. If you stop too early, that contaminated grease stays inside the bearing and accelerates wear. Another tip many operators miss is drive shaft slip joints on PTO-driven implements. These need grease too, and they are forgotten until they seize. A seized slip joint can destroy a drive shaft and the implement gearbox in seconds. If you are only following the book interval, you are shortening the life of every pivot point on your machine. But compared to what comes next, that was just the beginning. Secret number 3. Starfire receiver placement matters. Your GPS guidance is only as good as the signal your Starfire receiver gets, and where you mount that receiver has a bigger impact than most people realize. John Deere recommends center mounting the receiver on the cab roof, but if you have a roof rack, exhaust stack, or beacon light too close to the receiver, you are degrading signal quality. Experienced operators make sure there is at least 12 inches of clearance between the receiver and any metal object on the roof. A metal object nearby creates multipath interference, where the GPS signal bounces off the surface before hitting the receiver. This causes position errors that show up as slight wander in your auto track lines. If your rows look wavy, or you are getting more overlap than expected, check your receiver mounting. Clean the receiver dome regularly too, because a layer of dust or grime can attenuate the signal enough to drop you from SF3 correction to SF1, which goes from sub-inch accuracy to plus or minus 12 inches. A clean, properly mounted receiver is the cheapest accuracy upgrade you will ever make. Now things start to get interesting. Secret number 2, dual fuel filter change method. John Deere tractors with Tier 4 engines use a primary and secondary fuel filter, and the order you change them matters, but most operators just swap both filters at the same time and prime the system, and this can introduce air into the high-pressure fuel rail, which causes hard starts and potential injector damage. The correct method is change the primary filter first, fill it with clean diesel fuel, install it, and then run the tractor for a few minutes to purge any air through the primary side. Then shut down and change the secondary filter, fill it with clean fuel, and prime the system again. This sequential method ensures you never have both filters empty at the same time, which minimizes air in the system. Experienced mechanics know that air in a common rail fuel system is the #1 cause of injector scoring. Even tiny bubbles create microcavitation inside the injector nozzle that erodes the spray holes over time. This is a detail that can mean the difference between injectors lasting 6,000 hours or failing at 3,000. If that caught your attention, this next one will definitely do the same. Secret number 1, the real cost of skipping software updates. This is the secret most farmers ignore until it costs them serious money. John Deere regularly releases software updates for the command center, transmission controller, engine control unit, and auto-track system. These updates fix bugs, improve performance, and sometimes unlock features that were not available when your tractor left the factory. The problem is, most updates are only installed during dealer service visits, and if you are not asking for them, you are not getting them. Experienced operators call their dealer before every major season and ask what updates are available for their model and serial number. Some fix known issues like phantom fault codes, erratic auto-track behavior, or transmission hunting between gears. Others optimize fuel maps that genuinely reduce consumption. The most overlooked updates are for the Starfire receiver and auto-track controller. These improve guidance accuracy and fix compatibility issues with newer implements. Your tractor is a computer on wheels, and running outdated software is like running a 5-year-old operating system on your phone. One phone call before planting season can unlock performance you already paid for. Want to keep learning with us? Subscribe and don't miss the next episode.